Hello again, vinyl community. This is Matt, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Um, as some of you may know who've been watching my videos, I recently acquired several copies of the Beatles 1967 to 1970, copies on different formats. I've had it on vinyl for, I don't know, a year and a half maybe. But I also recently got it on CD, on cassette, and 8-track. And I wanted to do a little comparison because I think that in particular cassettes and 8-tracks, they get a little bit of a bad reputation that, oh, the sound quality is garbage. Why would anybody want to listen to them? And so what I've done is I've made 4 recordings of about the opening 20 seconds of a day in the life. The reason why it's only 20 seconds is I want to avoid any copyright issues. A day in the life should be okay to play. From what I can tell, YouTubers do have the rights to use it as long as you're not making any money off of it. So as long as you're not advertising and that sort of thing. As best I can tell, that's the case. We're going to find out. But like I said, even if that isn't the case, I'm literally only playing the first 20 seconds. And the idea is to do a format comparison. So I think it's pretty valid, fair use anyway. So let's take a look at the different formats we're going to be looking at. So number one, the CD, and again, all of these are the 1967 to 1970 CDs. We're going to be playing first 20 seconds of A Day in the Life. The reason why I am using these and not Sgt. Pepper is that I only have Sgt. Pepper on vinyl. I don't have it on anything else, and so I don't have anything else to compare it with. So CD, this is the, let me see, 1993 issue of the Beatles, 1967 to 1970, digitally remastered, or so it claims on the back, which in some ways makes sense. I mean, it was done for CD, so of course it's digital in some way, right? Next up we have the cassette. This is an original, as best I can tell, original 1973 cassette. It doesn't even have the tape lead on it. It goes straight into the actual magnetic tape. There's no Dolby. There's no noise reduction or HX Pro or anything on this. And it's going to be probably a tape formula that was okay at the time, but by even the standards of the late 70s would have been considered a little inferior. So we would expect the cassette to maybe not sound so great, but we'll see. Next up we have the LP, the vinyl. This is actually a Capitol Records repress, probably from the mid to late 70s, I'm not too sure, but in any event, it's still, despite not being a first pressing, it's still a pretty valid test. And last up will be the 8-track. 8-track's actually a double album, comes on 2 different 8-tracks. For our purposes, we're just interested in the very first one because this has A Day in the Life on it. And this would have been issued at the time. I'm pretty sure this is from 1973. That's the copyright notice it's on it anyway. Now, before anybody starts kind of jumping on the bandwagon and telling me about YouTube audio compression, and I know, I understand that. Any audio that gets uploaded to YouTube is going to be converted and compressed. I completely understand that. This isn't supposed to be scientific, it's just a bit of fun. It's really just, again, to maybe show that sometimes the differences between CD and vinyl, which a lot of people would maybe consider definitely a high quality or high fidelity than cassette. The differences between those and tape and 8-track might not be as big as you'd think. So, and another reason I chose A Day in the Life, aside from the fact that it should be okay to use a small section of it, is that it has a little bit of variety in the first 20 seconds. You get the soft guitar strumming, the acoustic guitar, you know, the do do, you know what I mean. And then the piano that starts and gets a little louder, do 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 do, you know. And then we also get a small snippet of Lennon singing the first couple of lines of the song, so we get some vocal out of it too. So I thought this would just be an interesting test. Again, it's just a bit of fun. It's not intended to be scientific. I'm not claiming this proves anything one way or the other. I just want to maybe give some of you guys some food for thought who maybe think that the tape cannot possibly sound good and 8-track cannot possibly sound good. And you know, I almost made this a blind test. I didn't in the end. But I considered just playing each segment of the first 20 seconds and just saying, okay, you know, pause the video for a few seconds and see if you can figure out which snippet came from which medium. The problem with that, and I was gonna do it, was that the CD version has a different intro, very slightly. All the other formats have the little ripple of applause at the beginning of it, which I guess is the fade out from the reprieve, the Sgt. Pepper. I guess it must be, right? I think. But anyway, they have that just for a couple of seconds, and then it goes into the song. The CD just goes straight into the song. You don't hear any of that little sort of smattering of applause. And so I figured, well, that's already going to kind of give the game away, which one's the CD. So let's not do the blind test. We're just going to go straight into showing which format is which. And you'll see it on the screen. We're going to go through, I think, cassette first, then vinyl, CD, and 8-track. And you guys tell me what you think. See if, I mean, to me, there's one that's clearly worse. And I'll discuss that in a second. But let's have a listen. And before we do that, let's have a look at just the audio equipment that it's going to be played on. And again, I know it's the third time I've said it. This isn't scientific. A lot of, and even if it was, even if I was trying to be deadly serious with this, these sorts of tests really rely on you know, sort of an all things being equal. You know, that everything is real high end, and you know, I have, I guess, a sort of medium mid-range setup. It's not high end by any means. It's not bottom of the barrel either. But so the turntable that we're going to be playing this on is an Audio-Technica LP120 USB. That's what the vinyl will be played on. The CD is on a Sony CDP 291 from the early 90s. The cassette will be played on a Sony, let me check, TCWR445, sorry. And the 8-track will be played on a Realistic TR-802. So again, it's all pretty sort of mid-range equipment, not ultra high-end. For the purposes of this little fun experiment, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. All four of these are going through my amp. The amp is a Pioneer SA510, and they are going into a little Behringer USB converter box from the amp that then went into my laptop. So for the purposes of amplification, it's a pretty even, fair test. They're all going through the same amp, all going through the same USB converter to be converted into a digital format. And yeah, let's have a listen, and you guys can tell me what you think. Okay, so that was the test right there. If you want to play it back, of course, and have another listen, feel free. For me, the format that was at the bottom, but maybe not as clearly as you might think, was the cassette. Funnily enough, it sounds better playing it back through the computer, through YouTube, than it does kind of in real life. And probably again that's part of the YouTube compression. I think it's not so much that it's making the tape sound better, it's probably making the other formats sound worse. And so it's kind of a little bit of a leveler, but what can you do, right? So for me, the cassette is number 4. It's in the 4th spot in last place. However, I think if I was to make my own recording of this, particularly if I did it on Type 2 Chrome tape, then the cassette would maybe be elevated a little bit. But like I said, as it is, it's an old tape. It's from the early 70s. There's no Dolby, no HX Pro. It's going to be using a fairly old tape formulation, and so it's not too surprising for me that, even though again it does sound a little better, I think, on YouTube compared to real life, it's still clearly in last place for me. Next up, this might surprise you a little bit, CD. The CD sounds good. It does. It sounds clear, but it sounds a little too cold and clinical for me. It just it doesn't have the warmth. It's not as lively. It doesn't pop as much. And it's a good, pretty faithful reproduction of the song. I certainly realize that, but yeah, I was kind of surprised. I think this is in 3rd place for me. Again, just a little too cold and clinical. It's almost too clean. It doesn't sound natural. 2nd place, 8-track. I was really shocked when I played this. I have a number of 8-track cartridges, and the sound quality varies wildly. Like some sound pretty good, some sound terrible for a number of reasons. Sometimes it's the tape's worn, sometimes there's excessive wow and flutter. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with 8-tracks. But when I got this a few weeks ago and I played it, the track that made me stand up and pay attention was A Day in the Life. When it started, I couldn't believe it. I thought, this sounds amazing. And for me, one of the main reasons it sounds better than the CDs is that the instruments come alive. They come through more, I don't want to say more clearly. I mean, there's more distortion on this, don't get me wrong. But they just sound warm and alive. They're not cold and clinical like the CD version. So 8-track, position number 2. So that of course means our winner, perhaps a little inevitably, is the vinyl, but the reason being that not only do you still get the warmth, of course, it's an analog recording. Again, I know it's being played digitally through YouTube, I understand that, but it was mixed and originally mastered as an analog recording. Not only do you still get that kind of warmth coming through, but it also really pops with the instruments. It just sounds fantastic on vinyl. It really does. And in some ways, this kind of test, it doesn't do it justice. Especially a great song like A Day in the Life, you can't do it justice. But yeah, vinyl number 1. So that's it. That's a little test. If you guys want to, please leave some comments. Let me know what you think. I did want to do other tracks. I really wanted to include some other tracks like Hey Jude. I was thinking about maybe 1 or 2 others. But again, I really want to not run afoul of the YouTube copyright, please. And A Day in the Life, from best I can tell, it's listed as being allowed for use on YouTube, provided it's not monetized, you're not making any cash off of it. So that was the main reason. And again, just you get a good range of the vocal, the acoustic guitar, and the piano right in that, just in that first little 20-second bite. So yeah, again, if you guys want to leave your comments, let me know what you think. Let me know if you could clearly hear the differences between them. If you could, what your preferred order would be. I don't doubt that some people would put the CD ahead of the 8-track. I certainly understand that. It sounds cleaner. I will say that much for it. And as always, guys, thank you so much for subscribing. And until next time, bye-bye.